Hello everyone of the three-dimensional frequency. Today I sit here and tell you a story of firsts. Of first times fractaling in the night. Of first times having our children. Of first times watching our children take their first steps. Their very first smiles. Their very first teeth. Their very first growth chart. As we traverse into a future of bright light and hopes and dreams for those children that are so much a part of us, as they came out of our physical being, as we birthed them into reality with so much love and so much light in our hearts. These children themselves, they're innocent beings. They're innocent little beings of love and light, so pure and so bright that in the middle of the night, as they cry themselves to sleep, as they cry themselves awake, as they cry themselves to scream for the comfort of their parents have no choice but to wrap them up in their bosom of love, as they know that these children know no better. They're so innocent, so protected, so wild and free, in a moment of time where we've all been these children. We've all been a child running wild on the streets, running so free, with our parents trailing behind us, calling us back, for fear that a car might pass by. We've all been a child that has so sparingly, in the middle of the night, woken up to a nightmare of sorts, calling our parents as we scream in fear of being alone. At the end of the day, those parents were all that we had. In a world so big, in a world so grand, in a world so wide, that's all that we knew. The family that we're born into is a family of firsts. No matter if you stay with them, no matter if you leave them eventually, no matter if you were always a part of this family or you were rejected since day one, they have always been and will always be your birth family. Ladies and gentlemen, I sit here and tell you a story of firsts. Of first times we worry about our children. Stepping into the night where the air is so crisp, the air is so cold. Searching for warmth, wrapping them up in the warmthness that is our love, that is our tender care. And that is the warmth that they so need in that moment in time as children. But I also tell you a story of firsts, of worries. Worries that we all hold in our hearts for society's children, for our children and children at large. Children that are in danger in this world. A danger so submissive that we cannot sleep tight in the night knowing that our children are outside all alone. So we keep them close by, in our bosoms, in our beds, in their bedrooms, on their bed, tucked away safely for the night, as they sleep in slumber, as they sleep in peace, as they sleep in love and tranquility. In these nights, we fear the most. We fear of a monster that could come and snatch them up when we're not looking. We fear of the washrooms that we might send them into one day to have them get molested. We fear of the playgrounds where strangers might come and offer candy to them, for fear that they will one day, in their innocent little hearts, accept this candy and step into somebody's car, a dangerous car of sorts, driven by a human with ill intentions, with who knows what intentions are floating in the air. The possibilities are endless of the worries that we carry in our bosoms, in our hearts, and in our souls for those children of ours. Society at large has been living in this way for generations. For generation upon generation, have parents lost sleep in the night worrying about their children, worrying about what might be, What could be? What's out there that could potentially hurt my babies, our babies, society's babies as a whole? Because the dangers out there are so great, are so grand, that sometimes if you lose sight of them, they might come and snatch up our child, our children. I'm here to tell you that this is no way to live for anybody, for any parents, for any being, for any soul, in any dimensional frequency. We've been living a lie of sorts, where we must feel like we are scared, to be comfortable in our minds that we are protected, that we have so much control over our exterior circumstance, over our external selves, that in the middle of the night, if we worry, if we stress, if we care too much, that we might be able to stop the incoming energies of negativity, that we might be able to shield these incoming energies that could potentially be out in the winds, out in the wilderness, where we can't control. We can never control those energies that are not a part of our being, that are not a part of who we are, that are not a part of our intentions. Because in our minds, in our small little minds, we're all alone. Our children are all alone. They have nobody out in the world. Had they been left outside alone, they might get eaten by a bear in the wilderness. Had they been left at the park, there might be a stranger around the corner that could potentially snap them up in a way that snaps all children into the night, into a delusion so wild, so big, that you might never see them again. That you might never ever see them again. And some parents witness this nightmare on a first-hand account. Some parents tell of tales of nightmares that they can never get over. They tell a tale of regrets that they could never fathom, that they would one day have to go through such feats on their own. I'm here to tell you that that day is coming to an end of sorts, that will start a new beginning of love, light, of hope, of no despair, of no satisfaction so great that we will never witness a satisfaction as great as this one. A satisfaction so tender, a satisfaction so wild, a satisfaction that within your wildest dreams, you could not ever imagine the satisfaction to be true. Because ladies and gentlemen, this frequency that I speak of is the frequency of love, is the frequency of tenderness, is the frequency of God, of God's bosom, welcoming us home into a different frequency, into a higher frequency of memories erased in the wind of time, that we can finally have access to as we tap into our previous lifetimes, as the soul that we are, as we tap into the energy of all that there is, all that there was, and all that there ever will be, as a whole of unity consciousness that we are. I sit here and tell you a story of firsts. Of first times running wild in the night into a morning sun, into a glorified morning of sorts, where all of our children, all of the children of the world, all of the children that you've ever known, that I've ever known, that we've all had the opportunity to embrace into our lives, that they would be running wild on the streets with not a single fear in their hearts and in their minds. So blissful, so peaceful, carrying so much tranquility that their parents will feel satisfied and at ease, knowing that their children are safe once and for all. Once and for all, will we have the opportunity to experience this paradise that I speak of. This is coming, and within the years to come, we will slowly shift into a society, a societal structure of one of pure light, pure love, pure peace, pure satisfaction of the heart, pure remembrance of that of which we are, on a soul level, so deep, so tender, so loving, so unified, that it can only be spoken of as the energy of God. The God that you are, the God that I am, the God that we all are as a societal structure, as a conglomerated consciousness that took a journey so far, so wide from the middle of its being, that had fractaled off so many times, further and further into the wind and into the night, that is finally ready to be welcomed back home. These children that I speak of will finally be able to rest tight, knowing that they are safe, not knowing what it feels like to be in danger, not knowing what it feels like to live in a skewed reality of danger, of hate, of fear, of forgetfulness, of dishonesty, of non-remembrance, of what it would be like to experience that of the darkness that has been harboring within our society for all this time. The generations to come have this to look forward to. A moment so bright, a moment so true, a moment so tender and loving that I cannot begin to tell you what that moment will be like when that moment is here. When that moment finally arrives on our footsteps, on the footsteps of all that we know as a society, as a whole, and as a unified front, we will finally see the truth of what is, what has always been, and what has never left us. Once we see this truth, there will be so much warmth in our hearts, there will be so much love in our being. There will be so much tenderness that we won't know what to do with it. We can only step into this reality with hope in our hearts that this is a true reality of sorts. A reality that will never leave us, that has never left us, that will always be a part of us for generations to come. As we step into this energy of this new reality at the forefront of the 5-dimensional frequency that we will all traverse into within the coming of years as an entire societal structure crumbles into the night and restructures itself in a delightful way, in a way where bright lights can climb up to the top of this pyramid, shining down so brightly in love, in coherence, in all that you know, on all that you know, in a unified way, as a unified front, for the benefit of all that you know, and for the positivity that you will witness within the societal structure, within this new world of ours. You will be in disbelief. But contentment will wash over you as you slowly realize your new reality and what it could be like to finally realize that you're not living a dream. That what you're living is so real, so tender, so sacrificial, that even God itself couldn't believe what just happened. What just happened in a night when this bright light frequency washed over all of society and takes almost everyone into a new world that I speak of. Within this new world, the children will run wild into a night, into the light of what is in the next morning. What is happiness? What is true love? What is true unity, true forgiveness, true essence of the whole? When societies will come together with no borders in sight. No borders in sight for miles and miles, for all that you can see. For borders don't exist within this space. The space of tranquility, the space of acceptance, the space of non-differentiation, of different races, of different star races, of the conglomerated whole. As we traverse into this new society, we will see a new beginning of newness throughout, on every single level, on every single structural, societal level, on every single society expectation of all of the levels that there could ever be. You will see a great and grand flip in the reality that we know, in reality as we know it. As the darkness shifts to the bottom of the ladder, and disappears into the night and segregates itself into a different frequency that cannot be reached from the light. As the bright light climbs up this ladder and illuminates all that there is within this frequency, the 5-dimensional frequency, you will see what that will mean for an entire society that has been unexpecting of these energies. A society so whole, a society so bright, a society so caring, a society so daring to step into this night in pure tranquility, in pure love, in pure peace. Because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, there will be no more darkness within this society that I speak of. The darkness will be completely washed away by the hands of time that has brought to us an opportunity so great, an opportunity so grand, that at the end of the day, you won't believe your hearts. You won't believe your eyes. You probably don't believe a word I'm saying in this moment as you watch this video, pondering about what this commotion is all about. About a reality that I speak of that might not be true. Because how could it be true? It seems too true, too real, too good to be true. But I'm here to tell you that this reality I speak of is the truth. It's forthcoming as it creeps up upon us in the middle of the night. It's all that we know as it washes away all of our doubts and fears. It's all that it knows. As society as a whole of consciousness that has never been apart, that has always been together, that has shifted into a new frequency of love and light, it cannot be too true, for the truth might be too good to be true. But I'm here to tell you to tuck away those fears, to tuck away those doubts, and have faith in your hearts. Have hope in your bosoms. Hold on to the hope that is so deeply ingrained inside of you. Hold on to my words as everything that you know, as everything that you knew, and as everything that will come about in the near future is the truth that I speak of. A truth that cannot be escaped. A truth that cannot be erased from a society that's meant to have these experiences of love and light, of shifting out into the winds, separating from the conglomerated whole, that once told stories of negativity, of positivity, of stories shifting in the winds of the nights, of the diverse outcomes and the endings of all of these stories that there could ever be. Of midline shifting, of these stories in the middle of the night, where the midlines of these stories in the bosom of God, in the bosom of all that we know, shifts to a better perspective, to a better place, to a better story of all that we know. For you see, in the beginning of the story that is foretold, and I tell you this because this is the most important story that you'll ever hear. This is the grandest truth that has ever come out of anyone's mouths. And I sit here and share this truth with you. In the beginning of the story, there was a society so grand, so great, that was foretold to lift all of humanity into its next incarnation of love, of light, of hope, of no more despair, of no more issues beyond the conglomerated whole that we have shifted into in the middle of this night. These issues that I speak of are a grand one that cannot be shifted out of the perspective of this societal structure in this moment. Why? Because it has been built into the blueprints of the souls residing within this society. For far too long, the souls in this society have carried the blueprint of light combined with a 50% outcome of the shifting of this blueprint towards the darkness that it is. Within the eons of time, there has been a scale of dark and light in which all individuals have the free will to experience, to explore anywhere on the scale. And within the scale, our society as a whole will forever fight for a place, for a placement of sorts within the scale, on an individual level and on a collective level, to finally shift back into the light where we belong once and for all, after we've shifted millions of times, endless amounts of times, thousands of times, hundreds of times, and sometimes throughout eons of evolution, of shifting across the scale so wide, so grand, landing on every single possibility of light and dark, every single possibility within the scale of light to dark have we experienced as a societal structure, as a society on an individual level, on a coherent level, and on the level of the whole. And finally, in the beginning of the story that I speak of, a society so grand, a society so mass in scale, has decided to tincture with the dimensional frequency of this scale, to see where we can finally land at the end of the day, at the end of all of our experiences, at the end of our journeys, at the end of all that there is, to see if we can finally make it back home into the light where we belong. But somewhere down the line, on the scale of darkness and light, light will prevail once and for all, for everyone to see, for all of eternity, for the wholeness of what is only made up of light. And the darkness that we've been experiencing is that of the self, that of the compartmentalized self, that we've so daringly compartmentalized in a previous lifetime, in a previous story that cannot be told in this moment in time. Compartmentalized was the darkness that I speak of as we realize that our way of being, that our way of shifting through this light cannot contain any of the darkness within this compartmentalized self, as the darkness itself places a grave danger on the light that we are, a danger so vast, so great, so grand in scale, that it could take out parts of our consciousness as a whole. As a whole, we've experienced many feats, many stories, many conquerors of reality foretold. As a whole, throughout eons of evolution, we've experienced many experiences, endless experiences in the wind of the night on the scale of dark versus light, of goodness versus darkness, of wholeness versus separation, of evil versus goodness, of good and bad, of he and she, of tender love and care, and forever forgetfulness throughout the night, of an opposition so great, so grand, that we will forever be fighting the opposite of what is. Had it not been the decision that God has made in this moment of now, in this moment of forever, in this moment of wholeness, that will bring us as a society back into the whole, back into the light that we are, because we're tired. We're tired of fighting within ourselves, within the darkness that we are, within the decisions that we've ever made as a society and as a whole to not benefit parts of the whole. As that darkness doesn't know better. It's never known better. It's always thought that it would come out first and foremost into the night. It's led entire community structures into a night so bright, yet so dark. It's led entire forefronts of negativity, of negative events, negative deaths, negative screaming of children's voices into the night, for the purpose of liberation, for the purpose of strength. In the middle of the night, shielding us from the truth of the light and what is. What is and forever will not be that of the darkness that I speak of. That of the darkness that is within every single one of us, within every single one of our cellular structures, within every single one of our community structures, within every single level of being that we know today to be true, there is a bit of darkness. For the blueprint of reality itself is that of the blueprint of dark and lights. And that light will prevail once more. It will prevail into the night where entire societal structures can band together as a whole unified front, as all that it is, as it shifts towards a new reality of hope, of love, of looking out for each other, of never being separated, never being apart from each other, of a unified whole, of a conglomerated whole, of a whole that shifts into a consciousness of pure thoughtfulness, of pure respectfulness, of the purity of what is in every single level of form of purity that there is. And that is something that we have to look out for in this lifetime. That we have the honor to experience within this lifetime, in this little body of ours, in this little soul of ours, in this little soul fractal that we've ever so sparingly fractaled out into, this physical body, to experience the reality that we have been experiencing. This is what we have to look forward to as a society and as a whole. It is an exciting time ahead, a time of firsts, traversing into a plane of pure love and pure light, of stories of building new communities at the forefront of what is. At the forefront of what is, as we traverse into the lights of what we will never be without, as the darkness subsides into a space, into a place, into a compartmentalized place of no return, of forever wholeness, of white light frequency as we gather together as a society and work together in positivity, in disbelief of what we had just gone through as a society. For the future is bright for our children, for our children's children, and for the generations to come. Generations that will not know what it's like to battle a darkness so great, that their children will be scared to walk outside of their homes alone in the middle of the night. A generation that will not know what it's like to have fear in their hearts, for fear that they don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. As tomorrow is a touchy subject, and it has always been. It has always been filled with fears as we try to control our reality field of what could be, of the outcomes that we could shift into, of the millions, of the thousands, and of the eons of evolution that we've traversed. All of the generations that I speak of have lived with this fear in their hearts for as far back as they can remember, for as far back as they know, for as far back as the eons and eons of evolution foretells of a truth so bright, of a truth so real, that it cannot be disputed, that the darkness inside of us is inside each and every one of us, compartmentalized into the whole of what is, so much so that the light within has diminished bit by bit, little by little. The flickering of lights, in some cases, cannot even be seen, could not even be touched or reached by the bravest of souls who decide to dive so deep into their fractaled souls to look for this light. It has been protected, it has been shielded by all of our trauma, all of our pain, all of the distortions that we've been experiencing on a collective level, as a society, and on a singular level, as a singular soul who's been through this journey of life upon death, upon rebirth, upon life, upon death, of reincarnations, and the cycle continues until we reach the footsteps of the whole, when we decide as a society that we no longer want to experience these cycles of darkness, of battling with the darkness, of deciding that we no longer want to be the darkness, we no longer want to feel the darkness, of becoming comfortable with this darkness as we shift into what is. What is us? What is whole? What has always been whole? And what will always be, which is that of the light that you are, on an inherent level, on a level that shall be seen soon, as a collective, and as a society, and as a single structure of your being. As you walk into the night and remember of who you once were and who you are today. That today cannot come soon enough. As we walk slowly into the light as a society, into a light that is so needed on a coherent level, on a collective level, on every single level of levels that there is in a society that has been compartmentalizing the darkness, that has been holding onto the darkness. It's finally time to release of that which we are not. That which we are not, which is a society of hate, of greed, of fear, of elites taking advantage of every single one of us, as we give up our livelihood, our salary, our happiness, our truths, the happiness of our children, our children's children, as we give up parts of ourselves to the elites, that has ever so sparingly been diminished in this moment. Because we've allowed that. We've allowed that to happen. We've shifted into a reality in which we feel comfortable to be in. We've allowed the shifting of this reality to take over our being as we're comfortable, to live in this reality of all that we know, to live in this reality of all that our ancestors have known, to live in a reality in which we've been born into, and once and for all, to live in a reality that is no longer going to be that of a true reality of sorts. For a future that is so bright, a future that is so vivid, a future that is so encompassing of the light is slowly creeping up upon our society. And we have to look forward to this. This is all that we know as a consciousness that is about to experience the greatest and grandest illusion that there has ever been concocted, who have ever so daringly taken these parts, compartmentalized these parts of light frequency in which that we are, that they will not allow us access to in this moment, as we've allowed them to. We've allowed them to take advantage of us on a societal level, on a frequency level, on every single levels, we've allowed the elites of this world to conquer us, to take away our divinity in a way that foretells the divinity of God. That is not so important in this moment. As we realize that we've been living an illusion this whole entire time, for generations and generations upon generations of eons of evolution, we've been out in the night, fractaling out into millions of pieces of selves, into endless of pieces of all that there is, experiencing a reality of all that we're not, to finally come upon the footsteps of all that we are at the end of the day. And that day is near. That day is here. That day is coming upon us. And finally realize who we are not, which is the reality that we've been living for all of the eons. And during this time, as a society finally opens its eyes and sees the truth, this truth that I speak of, the lessons foretold that will flood through the floodgates, like no lesson has ever flooded a set of floodgates so wide, beyond eternity, these lessons will flood through into our being, into our soul, into the wholeness of what is, as we grow and shift and aspire to be not that of all that we're not, but of all that we are, all that we will be, all that we can be, all that we've never been without, and all that there is. All that there is in a time of turmoil. as you will see so much darkness rise up into the atmosphere within the coming of years. Before the moment of this white light that will come and flood through our floodgates to deliver to us all of these lessons that we've been meaning to learn through all of these experiences that we've ever had as a collective, as a society, and on an individual level. A darkness so great, a darkness so grand, that it will take out reality as we know it. But fear not, the reality that I speak of will shift. It will shift no longer into a darkness that we're so used to. It will shift into a unified whole of what is. Into a unified whole of tomorrow's land, of children running free in the streets, happily dancing, with no worries in sight, with no darkness in sight, with no darkness in minds, with no darkness in spirit, without knowing what the darkness even feels like in this frequency, in the new 5-dimensional frequency that we will all shift into in the coming of times. A darkness so grand, a darkness so diverse that we've been living, that within this darkness, we've lost sight of ourselves. We've lost sight of who we are as a society, as a collective, on a moral level, on a secluded level, on a tranquility level, on all levels, on the mother of levels that you could ever imagine. As this darkness, the darkness of the whole, is so great and so grand that it has placed this illusion over our eyes, over our souls, and over our hearts for as long as we can remember. For as long as we can remember, we've lived comfortably in this darkness, thinking, feeling, and breathing this darkness, knowing that we are a part of the darkness. For as long as we remember, has a society sat in fear, lived in fear, felt comfortable in this fear, made adjustments to make room for this fear, to make room for this darkness that we thought, that we think we can never be without. But that darkness has an expiration date, and that date is quickly approaching. This expiration date is so great, so grand, so much that we have to look forward to as we creep upon this day. As the darkness releases into our atmosphere in fear of this expiration date, you will witness it, you will smell it, you will see it in the form of blood, in the form of movements across our land. Movements so grand, so diverse, that it will shift humanity for once and for all. Fear spreading across our lands, across the bosoms of society. As women scream, as children cry in turmoil of the wars that are to come, of a society that has so lost themselves in the passage of time. We hold so much goodness in our hearts and in our souls. And that goodness was always a part of you. It was always a part of us. We were always meant to experience this darkness in hopes that one day we will come across the footsteps of this goodness and once and for all push away the darkness as its expiration date expires. As its expiration date has expired, in a time of grief, in a time of sorrows, in a time of much needed light in the night, ladies and gentlemen, we will finally see that light once more. That light will creep up on us as we close in on this expiration date of the darkness. Of the darkness who holds so much control over our society, over our world, over our reality field in general. It knows, it's scared, it's shivering. It is so scared that in the middle of the night, it fears. It fears the destruction of what is, what it has built. In a society that has been so ingrained within this darkness, that has been so controlled by its control tactics, it fears losing control over reality as is, because it knows that the light will prevail, that the light is coming, that a savior so great, so grand, is creeping up upon our society to once and for all wipe away all of the darkness that we've been living in for eons and eons to come, will we see this light so bright burn within our society, burn within our societal structures, burn within the hearts and souls of every single soul fractal that there ever was and there ever will be, as this darkness subsides into the night and becomes yesterday's past and becomes no more, and disappears into a grandness so grand, so great, that you shall forever remember it as a distant memory of what was, as we carry these lessons into a brighter morning, into a brighter tomorrow of that in which we thought we were, in that of which we used to be, and that of which we will forever be without. Because, ladies and gentlemen, that darkness is about to expire. It's shivering in its boots as we speak. And as we speak, the lightness, the airiness, the brightness of what is preparing, is getting ready to take full and center stage as we traverse into a new tomorrow of pure love, pure hope, pure peace, pure unity consciousness, of a grand tomorrow that can only be shifted into a frequency as large, as grand, as great as God itself.